Hey everyone, welcome to Reading the Green and our golf DFS show. My name is Mike, joined with Kyle and Jordan. On June 28th, we have our Travelers Championship recap, the John Deere Classic preview, a bunch of other good topics that starts with, Jordan, an equipment dilemma that you have popped on us right now as you are gearing up for member guest season and want to make sure you got the right stuff in your bag. What's going on?
My clubs arrived today, my new irons. Ordered them, did the fitting, first week in March? Finally got here. Shafts are backed up. But I've been playing pretty well. And now I have 2 weeks before, just over 2 weeks before our member guest, which is kind of the big event of the summer. So do you make the switch? And like my fitting, I got 15 to 20 extra yards out of every club. So like instead of a 6-iron, I can hit an 8-iron with the new set. But that's a lot of commit when I probably have 2 more rounds in me before the tournament.
Before you go, Mike, a couple questions for you, Jordan. Remind us, how comparable are these to your current clubs? Are we switching brands here?
Switching brands, and they are 11 years newer.
Okay. And similar shaft types?
Sure. They're both stepped.
Okay, I was going to ask, do you know the specs you put in for the shafts? But I'm guessing you don't.
No, they're both. It's stiff, and they're both stepped.
Okay.
Because it was crazy when I was getting fitted for the shafts. Every one that was just not stepped, I chunked every shot.
Okay.
He would unscrew it, put a new shaft in, and I hit it fine. And then we tried a different one that was not stepped, chunked it. It was the weirdest experience. Had no idea shaft could matter that much. Ask my wife, she would say different, but.
All right. Well, I guess, I mean, obviously, like the professionals deal with this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's not impossible to put in a new set of irons and spend 2 weeks. I think the distance thing, is the biggest problem. And actually, I was thinking back to a good player, a friend of mine, that was saying he went up to the Vokey SM9 wedges this year, and they're considerably heavier than the previous like 3-4 versions. And he's like, I'm just hitting my chips so far. Like everything is just jumping on me, and it's taking me a while to calibrate. So I don't know. I would say my gut feel for member guests, you want it to be like fun. You don't want to be like hitting balls 20 yards over the green. Like I would probably not play with the new irons for the member guest if you're only going to play once or twice between now and then. That's my gut feel. Worst case scenario is you could probably swap them out between 9s if it was like really terrible.
The bloodbath.
So, and that's the nice thing is because it's just the 9-hole matches. But I would say 2 weeks to go and you're only going to play once or twice. I don't think that's enough time to like adjust to new yardages.
That's what as soon as I'm going to go get them either tomorrow or Thursday. And my question to them was going to be, can I spend a half hour on the TrackMan? So I can at least like document my distances, because range balls are no good, and you can't even tell how far. Like you need a digital monitor to tell that. It's like if I can make that fit into my schedule, that makes it more likely, I think, that I at least even try them before the tournament. But if I can't do that, right, like I have no idea how far any of the clubs go.
So speaking of tour players doing it all this time, we didn't throw this on, Mike, but I meant to bring this up, is Joel Damon and his caddy going and buying commercially available putters before round 3 of a tournament where he makes the cut last week. Love it.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I mean, I've heard of that stuff happening. Obviously, like, I don't know. He just barely made the cut, so he was probably just like, the kind of guy that he is. He's like, screw it, I don't care what I putt with. But
I think he was well in, and then just played awful on the weekend. But maybe.
Yeah, that was super funny. He had three putters in the front seat from like Golf Superstore or something like that in Connecticut. I don't know, Jordan. I mean, it's a good problem to have. It's fun to have a new set of irons coming in, but I would, I'd take your time working those in if you don't want to be a bad host. A lot of pressure.
That is pressure. And maybe after day one, if we're already out of it, then I just bring him out anyway.
And have a little fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, Kyle, you had a hypothetical question you wanted to ask the group. Do you want to fire away?
Yeah, I wanted to get your guys' take. So let's say, a certain type of golfers, or maybe a particular golfer in some cases, reaches out to you guys and says, hey, I'm coming to the Twin Cities. I got 12 hours in town and I have my clubs. Where should they play? So I have a couple different hypothetical scenarios here, and I want your recommendation on where we should tell these individuals to go tee it up.
Okay.
All right, got this down, Jordan?
Sure.
All right, the first one, let's say, Jay Haas reaches out to Reading the Green on Twitter. So number 44 on the senior tour. Champions Tour, just cut maker extraordinaire. Short driver these days, but overall a really good golfer. Says, don't call any favors, but give me a public track that would be challenging yet fun for a Champions Tour cut maker. Where are you sending him?
I have two that I would send him.
Oh,
I would say Rush Creek or Stone Ridge is where I would send him.
Rush Creek was mine as well.
So obviously, like kind of challenging public course, lots of water, undulating fairways, big greens, but very hard. And I think those guys would have fun. I mean, we're excluding private clubs, so I would think those guys would think those places are fun.
Yeah,
perfect. I like it. All right, the next guy, we get another DM on Twitter here from a PGA, DFS space, somebody that follows us from Reading the Green that plays in the same arena we do. Says, hey, I'm 25 handicap, coming down with some buddies, very inconsistent. Want to golf, have some beers. Where am I going?
What do you think, Jordan?
What's the cheapest course you can find?
I know it. Well, that's the thing. There's two different price points, because I might send them down to the Meadows at Mystic Lake, where there's nobody down there. The fairways are huge, and there's a casino across the street.
Ooh, I like the idea.
See, but that's $100 a round at least.
Oh, it's at least 100.
Yeah. So
and there's sports betting in Minnesota, so yeah.
I was thinking. I mean, Braemar is a great public track. I mean, if they're really garbage and want to drink, go to Brookview or Meadowbrook or one of those. Probably Brookview. They got a brand new clubhouse. They've got like bocce and other things they can do.
Well, the problem with any of the city courses is they might be out there too long and get too drunk, right?
Yeah. You can even get a tee time. Those places are packed.
All right, golfer number 3. We got 4 here. Golfer number 3, Cameron Champ is coming to town to defend his title at TPC Blaine here in a couple weeks. And he says, hey, I'm going to be in on Monday. Where can I go? Someone that's a bomber and just would be challenged with their length.
I mean, is it bad to say TPC Blaine? Right,
because place he's won.
Yeah, you can, but like if thinking of like the longest public course is, anyone can go play that, right?
No, that's private.
Oh, I thought you could play it. Even I thought it was expensive.
No, I mean, I would obviously, like, he's looking for length. The longest track in town obviously is Hazeltine. And if he can get on that, good for Cameron. I might send him out to Pioneer Creek and back him up to one step off the tee box. I think you can stretch that thing out to like 7,200 yards. And it's for $45, it's a good test. I think he'd have fun there.
The other one that I would think about is the Wilds. Like
he would break 18 windows on that golf course.
Yes, but I've never played it from the tips, and it always still felt kind of long. So I feel like if you played it from the tips, it'd probably be long enough.
I like it. And lastly, in this one, you can call in favors for. We're going to get this guy anywhere we can. But John Rahm says, hey, I'm bringing some putties, and I don't want an effing putting contest. Where are we sending him?
I'm telling John Rahm to wait 3 years and go check out the new Tepe Tonka in New London, Minnesota, which is going to be the new rival to Sand Hills. It will be private, so it will be like a sand valley, or like abandoned dunes, destination golf in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota. But they're only taking on 100 memberships, and it's going to be Jeff Ogilvy actually is designing the golf course. So it's supposed to be pretty incredible. None of us will ever get on it, so I'd say John should wait 3 years and get out there.
Is that going to be one of those places you have to have a membership somewhere else to even be a member?
I would assume for the people that are joining this place, if you don't have a membership somewhere else, then you probably don't have enough money to be joining.
But yeah, like where else here?
I mean,
maybe like Windsong.
Spring Hill and Windsong are the two that you'd say are the most like kind of that are going to be like bigger golf courses. Obviously, you can go play Interlaken if you want the history and all that. But Spring Hill and Windsong, from an exclusivity standpoint, I think you'd get some tour guys interested. This actually came up, Jordan, on Discord for the Swag NFT project. Somebody was reaching out saying, hey, I'm going to be in Minneapolis. I'm from Ireland. I'm going to be in Minneapolis for 3 weeks this summer, looking to play some golf. Where should I go? Would love to get on Hazeltine or Interlaken if possible. And there was a couple of chuckles. And I just said, hey, why don't you just check with your local pro and see if they can get you like an unaccompanied guest fee for $400 and play there. Yeah. And he was like, well, I play at a 9-hole course that doesn't have a head pro, so that might be kind of tough. So I directed him to Stone Ridge and said that might be your best bet for something that is a really great course. Going to cost you $150, but like is probably a good track locally.
And like, if you're playing a 9-hole crappy course back home, you want to
these are degenerates.
Hazeltine and spend $400 to bend over. I don't
I went out in Torrey Pines with you guys.
You only paid like $300 for that one.
But you also didn't travel around the world. And you only play 18 holes.
4 hours with a 3-year-old kind of feels like along the world.
Right. Valid. Well, good questions, Kyle. I think for our listenership that is not based in Minnesota or not based in the U.S., maybe not mean as much, but you know, if you're ever in town, these are great places to check out. And I think for those that are based here, hit us up on Twitter. Do we get something wrong, or do you have something to add? Like, it'd be fun to get some discussion about the local scene. With that, one more topic before we get into the Travelers, Kyle. Big news today in the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, Korn Ferry Tour news. Do you want to give a quick rundown and share a couple thoughts? I know, we had a bit of back and forth today.
Yeah, you'll have to correct my numbers if I'm wrong here. But the big thing was they're going to allow more tour cards, essentially, right? So Korn Ferry, our first Q school, the top 5 graduates from Q school will get a tour card next year. Top 10 on the Korn Ferry Tour. Is that right, Mike?
No, top 30.
Top 30 on Korn Ferry. And
it went from 25 to 30. They added 5 more, but
yeah. And then is it top 10 on DP World Tour?
Yep.
We'll all graduate and get tour cards next year for the PGA Tour, which is the direct response to a lot of that stuff that's happening with Liv. Obviously, there's spots open on the tour with some of the guys we've lost, but from our view, it's a great development and really strengthening the pipeline into the PGA Tour for the young talent.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing that I think we talked about was, the top 70, the big money, the extra events, that was all really great. But, like, what's going to happen to the pipeline of talent? And you kind of knew, like, say what you want about Monahan, but, like, they're not going to just totally forget about the other, like, 400 golfers that make up these tours. And so I think they did a nice job of incenting the younger guys, the up and coming guys, to fight for those spots. And this is what I was saying to you, Kyle, those guys in that 80 to 125 ranking, it puts them on alert. You're not going to be able to just kind of coast along and make your cuts and cash your checks anymore. you're going to be on alert because you're going to get guys that are hungry, that are earning your cards, that are going to bump you down the rankings if you don't fight to hold your spot. So I think it's going to make, we talk about a lot of the guys that are playing in the John Deere this week. It's going to make them hopefully more competitive, or frankly, they might just go play live if they just want to coast along.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, the other thing that I saw a little bit talked about on Twitter today is if this was in place this year, how much stronger a field like John Deere would be.
Right.
Especially, there's just a lot of guys in this field that really don't belong playing in a PGA Tour event anymore. They'd be more likely to fit in like a Champions Tour event, for example. And just having the top 10 on the money list from the DP World Tour last year, 4 of those guys have ended up on live now. Maybe if they had this opportunity in the past, they would be here instead.
Yeah.
But so it's also, the risk is the John Deere is going to be a bunch of younger guys that no one's ever heard of, right? Like if we're used to 10 Corn Ferry guys graduating up to the tour, now 30, right? Like we barely know the 10 that came up in the past year. Now there's going to be 30 guys that did well against lesser competition. It's almost like a expanded, Premier League relegation, right? Instead of doing 3 teams down and 3 teams up, you're doing 10 teams down and 10 teams up. But the 10th team coming up is way worse than the first team being relegated. Right. So it actually could.
I like that. Like, I like the idea. I like expanding the impact of relegation here, though, because I think that's what's going to keep the bottom half of the tour like really competitive, and hopefully you see guys claw their way up. I also think that like a lot was made of like Pearson Coody this week and being like, how is this guy? He just won a Corn Ferry event. Like, how is he not getting a sponsor's exemption up to John Deere? Like, I think you're going to get some of these hot shot college players. You're going to get them up to the tour faster.
Yeah.
Because they'll be able to go through these other avenues. And I think that's what we want. So I hope it's the right. I think it's the right thing. I think that the PGA Tour is leaning into their strengths, which is a competitive pipeline, and I hope this is the right move. So with that, I'll do a very quick beer spot, and then we'll talk about the Travelers. I'm drinking Serious Leisure from Fair State. It is a guava sour. Keeping things light tonight.
I haven't got a chance to make a beer run in the last 2 weeks, but I still have a little bit of my Minneapolis haul from last time. So I have a Junkyard. Playtime is over. Northeast side. Hey, it's pretty solid. Pretty solid.
I like that one. That orange one. I thought that one's great.
Nice. I have another other half here. I've still got a few left. This is the Ain't Nothing Nice double dry hopped IPA, not 10%. So I won't feel like crap tomorrow.
I like 10% beer, Jordan.
It's very good, very hazy, and it's delightful.
All right, a couple of things from the Travelers Championship before we get into some of the results. Did each of you guys watch the finish on Sunday?
No.
Okay.
I didn't even know there was a golf tournament on, other than my DraftKings winnings that I took home.
I watched a lot early Sunday, but during the finish, was out and about at that point.
Okay. I will summarize for you and for the listeners that also didn't watch briefly what happened. Xander had a 5-shot lead after 36 holes, and he slowly gave that back to a point where Sahith Theegala was leading after burying a 10-foot birdie on 17, takes a 1-stroke lead, and he's playing 1 hole ahead of Xander. And he steps up on 18 and hits his ball in a fairway bunker, in which the ball rolls all the way to the front of the bunker. Looked like it was about a foot or two short of a pretty high lip, and he's 120 yards away from the green. He proceeds, most of the commentary is about him needs to just chunk this out about 30 yards and try to get up and down with the wedge, put the pressure on Xander to make birdie. He proceeds to go full rip gap wedge on this ball and blades it into the lip of the bunker, and the ball, travels about 3 inches. Then takes the same swing again, but this time does chunk it out about 30 yards, hits it up on the green, and like 180s the bogey putt, makes double bogey, drops back behind Xander by a shot. Xander pipes his drive 340, hits it to about 5 feet and sinks the putt for a 2-shot win. But so like after like watching Sahith do that in Phoenix, where he hit that ball in the water on 17, like you were definitely just cringing for this guy. But like listening to him talk, like he's such a raw player that this is just how he plays. Like I don't think he really has it in him to like, take the safety pill and just do the right thing. He's like, I only play on one speed and this is how I play golf. And I guess for that, he's just being himself, and eventually it's going to pay off, but it's certainly going to like really, it's like watching a car accident. Like it's just going to suck in the meantime. But so yeah, so that happened. The last thing I'll say is Xander answered like they must have been running late because Xander answered one question in like the on green post round interview, and in the sign off, whoever the broadcaster was said his call was X is gonna give it to you.
Wow.
I didn't think I would hear a DMX reference on PGA podcast. Here we
I was like, I had to rewind and watch the subtitles. I was like, did he just say that?
On Theegala, I guess it's refreshing to see that approach somewhat, especially from a guy that's just say, hey, I'm going to go win it. A little bit of flashback to Mito there and his tee shot 18 in Oklahoma. But Mito rebounded. And the good thing is it seems like Theegala has a short memory too. I guess we'll see this week. But, hey, he's an upcoming player, and at least he's shown the ability to be there a couple times this year.
Yeah, I agree. Like he was an outstanding college player. Like he's got the game, he's got the talent. Again, I think he's pretty raw. Like he just kind of plays on one speed. He didn't make a mistake the entire round, and then it all just sort of like crumbles at the end. You got to remember he's 23 years old and he's going to learn, and not all these guys are, Rory McIlroys that have this like winner's maturity at age 19. So it takes time for some guys. So I don't know. I thought it was cool, but it also was just real cringy. Anyways, I'm guessing you don't have very many thoughts since you guys didn't see the finish, but
you sent the text and I was like, wait, is that a good thing or a bad thing that all I got was the Heath text?
Yeah, and I did see the video of the first attempt out of the bunker shot. I watched some of it back. I just wasn't watching it live.
Yeah.
Partake in it. When you already know what's happening, it's a little different to watch it back.
Mm-hmm. On the listener league, I don't know. Did you guys notice like it was just brutal cut wise? And I know I was looking at the cut sweats data, but like no one in the league was better a 4 of 6. And so that made it interesting on the weekend. Spicy 1 grabs first place. Kyle, congrats on a second place finish. Great run for the RTG crew. Derek Howard taking third. But I think again, like it was all kind of a mess with the amount of missed cuts.
Yeah, and that's weird. Usually to win the RTG contest, usually it takes about one of our best lineups, or there has been some weeks on that plays really well in the GPP. Unfortunately, Spicy 1 hung on by 5.5 over me. Cameron Davis ejected with a +4 on Sunday, which made it rough. But the crazy part about coming in second is my 2 most expensive guys, Aaron Wise and Spieth, didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
still hung on with Brendan Steele as part of my lineup.
Let me get to that in a second. I have a question for Jordan. Jordan, you had one player make the cut, I believe, in the RTG lineup. Did you finish in last or did you not finish in last?
I think I was second to last. I think my brother got last. So I still got to talk shit to him. But no, so I was busy last week. I only submitted 2 lineups. One I made 5 out of 6. The other one I made 1 out of 6.
Between the 2, you got a good lineup there, eh?
Yeah, it was great. I won money in one of the free contests that the free join. I won $2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you.
Contests with 2 lineups.
Right.
All right, Kyle. Well, thank you for reminding me about the Brendan bet, and I want to see, do you want to settle up now? I took Brendan Todd. You took Brendan Steele. I took the wrong Brendan. Mine didn't make the cut. Yours finished. I don't know where he finished. He was top 10 for a while. Do you want to settle up now, or do you want to during the break come up with a bet for the John Deere and double down?
I have an idea for a John Deere bet. So
okay, all right, that sounds good. Let's sit on that. We'll get to that in a few minutes. A couple of other comments. Our best expert this week, Cody Williams from Fansided. He had Cantlay, Harmon, Bradley, Svensson, Dahmen, all 5 guys making the cut. Cody has done a good job lately. I think he's won a couple of times out of the last 5 or 6 weeks. So definitely check out his stuff on Fansided. And lastly, model-wise, it was a bit of a crapshoot. I think we all had collectively pretty good weeks DFS-wise, but a couple of landmines: Brendan Todd, Aaron Wise, Jordan Spieth, Joaquin Niemann. Just was some landmines that I think I got hit by in a couple of spots. But other than that, decent week. I don't know. We're just trying to get to the British Open here because these are just kind of meaningless tournaments, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, there wasn't enough value in the board, and it did take 5 out of 6 to cash very many at places.
Right.
So, yeah, Cantlay, you had Brian Harmon that had a lot of love in the model, and Brennan Steele, and there was enough to carry you there, and maybe not make some big GPP contests, but do all right in cash games.
Yep. All right. Well, with that, I think let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about the John Deere. Hey everyone, welcome back. We have the second half of our show, the John Deere Classic Preview. Real quick, we do have the Reading the Green Listener League available on DraftKings every week. You can play DFS golf with Reading the Green and our listeners. Low entry, real money. It's fun. We get to meet a few people. And like I said, you can win real money out of our pocket. So look for that on Twitter on Wednesday. Okay, the John Deere Classic played at TPC Deere Run in Silvis, Illinois. No, so not Deere Run in Victoria, Minnesota, Jordan, which you did not mention as one of the places that you would send an in-town person for a round of golf.
I try and avoid Deere Run in Minnesota.
Yeah. Side note, there has been my high school plays a scramble fundraiser there every year, and that's kind of the only thing that it's been good for. But
yeah. We had our neighborhood had our Tamarack Open there. No, we didn't even do one last year, 2 years ago. And we played as a 9-some. It was like October. We played as a 9-some in a scramble, and no one had to wait for us until the 18th hole, where a marshal came up and yelled at us. And we were like, no one has waited for us all day, and we're on 18, and you're going to tell us. So we just kept playing. But that's the type of course it is. It's
quite the operation out there. They are a great crew, the really great team that runs that place, but it is quite the operation. All right. TPC Deere Run, John Deere Classic. We got normal cut rules, top 65 in ties. Last year's winner, I believe, was Lucas Glover. And so we do have some returning top players. And yes, this is the weakest field of the year on the PGA Tour. It is going to be a birdie fest. And that's just kind of what it is. So Kyle, thoughts on general strategy and what we're going to get this week?
I kind of like these weeks. There's a lot of guys that I think, people that are playing week in, week out, and you can find value by diving deeper, and you get to play some of the names that you sometimes hesitate to click on. You want to play some of these guys and week in, week out, and they're like $6,600. You're like, yeah, can I do it? Hey, this is your week. We get to play them.
You get to spend $10,000 on Jason Day.
Overall, like you said, pretty easy course. 20 under or better is probably going to win. Wide fairways, but there is some bunkers and deep rough, so there is some elements that are penal. Very easy putting relative to other courses on tour. PGA splits from BetSperts noted it's the one of the top 5 easiest putting courses. And apparently it's notorious for having perfect rolling greens. So there are some guys that like playing here for that reason. But we've had bombers win. We've had short game experts win. really spread on the win equity side of things. So I think that's what makes it fun. And outside of DFS also makes it a fun week to bet, because the likelihood that somebody, 50 to 100 to 150 to win is probably as high as any week of the year.
I really, and that's kind of hope happens this week, is we get somebody in that like 50 to 1 all the way up to 100 to 1 or so. Somebody, maybe it's a first win or a second win, someone that's been knocking on the door. Yes, Webb Simpson is a better player than most players in the field. Yes, Jason Day at one point was a better player than most players in the field, but it's a great spot for somebody like Sahith Theegala or Denny McCarthy to get their first win, and that's fun for fans that have been watching these guys and playing these guys, especially in daily fantasy all year. It's fun for them to have a real chance to do that, and so we'll see what happens. You're gonna put together rosters of guys that you would never put these 6 guys together on a roster any other week. So we'll see what happens. Kyle, why don't you hit us with the top of the board?
Well, you mentioned Webb Simpson. He's leading the way at this point, 48% mention share, coming in at a paltry $10,600 to lead the top of Jordan's lineup. Next is
like if there was a tournament with the 3 of us and Mike was in it, I would bet on him over us also. So I'm going to bet on Webb Simpson.
Next on the board at the same mention share, 48%, is Adam Schenk, $7,700. So a little bit of a value play there. And then back on the higher price point, Adam Hadwin, 10,400, 43% mention share. And then John Huff at 39% mention share for $7,800. And then rounding out the top 5 is Scott Stallings. And I got to laugh at him being $8,900, but that's where he is this week, and 35% mention share.
I do think that someone like Scott Stallings, I think he has the ceiling to be an 8K, high 8K player week to week, but that's not where his results have landed this year. Like, he tends to have 1 or 2 rounds where he plays really well, but certainly not. Yeah, it is kind of funny. Like, an $8,900 player is not representative of his form this year. But with that being said, I can start with a couple of guys that I'm looking at, and I think Kyle, we were talking pre-pod about some of the pricing feeling a little weird this week, and I do think there is a lot of emphasis by DraftKings put on form. And so someone like Scott Stallings has had a couple of decent rounds in the last handful of weeks, so he's getting that $8,900. Denny McCarthy at $9,900. And I know you guys think I'm just going to gush over the UVA grad here, but I don't have the same connection with Denny that I do, my guy Tom Hoagie. Denny at $9,900 is insane.
Wait, and why is Hoagie playing in this? Shouldn't he be trying to make any money he can now?
No, he won Pebble, man. He's set. He's set. But Danny McCarthy, 9,900, like, you have other guys in that range, like Maverick McNeely, who I think Kyle, I said, has been a legit like low 9K player in much stronger fields. And so I think you're seeing a lot of emphasis given to recent form. But a couple of guys that I like, you talked about needing some putting specialists. Denny would fit that bill, but so would Patrick Rogers. And so coming in at $1,100 cheaper than Denny McCarthy, Patrick Rogers at $8,800, I think is an interesting take. Cameron Davis is a guy that I liked last week. I had him in my GPP core and a number of other spots. He really disappointed on the weekend, and I think that's what you get out of Cameron Davis. He is sort of like a boomer bust type player, sometimes all in the same week. But he has the length. You talked about Bombers being really well here, playing really well. So I like Cameron Davis to maybe bounce back and put together 4 rounds this week. And then lastly, I think a couple of guys further down that I think you maybe are getting a decent price break on, Adam Svensson and Austin Smotherman. Svensson has been a high 6K, low 7K player, as has Austin Smotherman. You're still going to get Adam Svensson at 7,700. Great form there. And Austin Smotherman's been playing pretty well, making a lot of cuts from that high 6K range. And he's still only going to cost you $7,000 this week. So a couple of other plays I'm looking for value, I might be working both of those guys in.
those are two guys I've been on a decent amount.
Mhm.
My picks this week, I'm going to stick to the experts. I'm going to stick to the model. Maybe strayed a little bit too far recently, and I hope no one followed my 3 plays last week because they weren't very good. So back to the model this week. I'm starting at the top. Webb Simpson. I'm doing it. 48% mention share. In a cash game, I think it's a great place to start. I kind of see most people choosing between Simpson and Adam Hadwin, and I don't think there's necessarily a wrong choice. But in a field like this, I got to go Webb Simpson. His form's been great, pretty good lately, and man, he can't struggle in a field like this, right? Right?
How many
famous last words? Sure.
Kyle, how many rank levels higher is Adam Hadwin than Webb Simpson in the FedEx Cup rankings right now?
Well, Adam Hadwin had that great stretch where I believe he had 4 out of 5 events where he had a top 15. So I'm guessing Adam Hadwin's probably pretty high.
I was gonna say 30 to 40 spots higher than Webb Simpson.
60.
60.
Webb Simpson is out of the top 100. So that was, I would just made my comment on you got to pick Simpson, but like Hadwin 5 top 10s, 16 out of 20 cuts made. Both of those numbers are better than Webb Simpson.
Yeah. So Simpson, from a form perspective, I do feel like he's picked it up over, especially because he had some injury issues there for a while, especially in the early part of the year. He didn't play from Sony Open, which was January 13th, all the way to the Players, which was March 10th. So he did take a bit of time off there. He's coming off of 20 at the PGA, 27 at Schwab. He missed the cut on the number at U.S. Open and 13th last week. But I understand that point. I mean, Adam Hadwin was 7th at the Open. I think he's a pretty solid play as well. And then he did have that stretch this summer of 9th, 7th, 4th, and 20, or the spring, 9th, 7th, 4th, and 26th.
Yep.
Continuing my play, just going down the board. I'm on Adam Schenk. He has 100% on our MPI and that 48% mention share. He's going to be a big part of my lineups. And a lot of our guys we really have had success with this year are on him. Reed Fowler, Fantasy Lab, Cash Plays, and Pat James at the right end. And then next, I'm going to play John Hunt. I wish I could say his name like Mayo does, but Pat Mayo's on him, Rick Gaiman, and the Bet Spirits pod as well. So sticking to our model, sticking to our experts this week, guys.
Good choice. Good choice. Even though you didn't stick to it last week, and you were second in the league, right?
Well, my plays, I stuck pretty closely to it.
So you give advice that's different than what you do for your plays. Is that how it is, Kyle?
The cash games, I stick pretty hard to the model. Got to look for those angles in the GPP contest, Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. My picks have all been fairly garbage lately, especially for the listener league.
That's because you can't pick Tony Finau every week. Every week you pick Big Tone. I think you do well. So
yeah, and now this week I've got literally 5 guys that I've barely ever heard. Well, 4 guys I don't think I've ever heard of, and then Webb Simpson and Maverick McNeely, who I couldn't pick Maverick McNeely out of a lineup at a grocery store, but otherwise, I didn't like how the model, you have to pick either Simpson or Hadwin, I feel like, at the top of the list. And I usually try and avoid the most expensive guys, but you got to pick one or the other. I feel this week, it's just, they're the best 2 golfers in the tournament. They're going to do well versus, you were saying Charles Howell for $1,000 less than Adam Hadwin. No, thank you.
Right. Well, I'll give you this. You might as well just skip the whole 9K range, maybe even all the way down to the mid 8,000s, which I know I threw out Patrick Rogers, but here's your 9K players. And this is why I think you're right, Jordan. You have to pick a guy in the 10K range because Denny McCarthy, Maverick McNeely, Charles Howell, Christian Bezuidenhout. I don't know. I don't really need any 4 of those guys in my lineup, and throw Scott Stallings in there too. So you might as well start with a Simpson or a Hadwin and then drop down to the low 8s.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I've currently got McNeely in. But if you do that, then I'm really digging in the low 7,000s. And I've got Lashley and Moore are both getting some love in the model, but it's just a crapshoot, right? There's a whole bunch of people down there at 26, 21% owned that you could take, and I'm hoping that I pick winners, not losers.
You're right. It is a bit of a crapshoot this week. And that's, especially from I would say a betting perspective, I'm going down the board, longer odds a little bit, lesser units in on each person, and just a little bit more of a scatter approach than normal. But yeah, I think part of that is also what makes it fun. It's almost just as likely one of these guys in 7K range wins as a guy in the 9K range, especially when you know those names, Mike.
Tiers wise, just taking a quick scan, it seems like there's some messiness. Tier 2, tier 3, I don't know how you're going to sort that out.
And even tier 5 is going to be hard too. You have Shank, as we've talked about, John Hutch, Ches Reavy, Adam Svensson, Mark Hubbard, almost all guys we've mentioned, pretty strong MPIs, getting some mention share.
Yeah.
The beauty of it, we've talked about this before, is sometimes the reason we like playing tiers, and we know tiers doesn't get a lot of airplay in the DFS world, is there's sometimes this model approach gives you really clear plays in some areas, and it's been successful for us to win cash games this year. I don't know if that's the case this week.
I was like, this week, you're right. Usually we just go straight down the list and we say we got one or two guys you got to pick between, and here it's 3 or 4 in each tier. So I don't know. I'll probably still find a tiers contest I'm interested in, but it might be kind of a tough week there.
I really can't believe tier 2. We just had a week where tier 3 was packed with some studs, and this tier 2 is Scott Stallings, Denny McCarthy, Mac McNeely, and Christian. Ooh, Chris Seabaz, man, he was my guy for a while, but I'm struggling to go there this week.
All right. Well, final thoughts. I mean, I know, Kyle, outside the majors, we haven't covered a lot of betting talk, but I think we are talking a little bit. I mean, who's the one guy you got in your card this week that you are going to be pulling hard for?
I don't know if there is one, because the scatter approach. But I hit on a little bit. I follow a lot of the same methodology out there that most PGA bettors do. Set your units you're going to go in every week and target a certain payout that's usually about 7 to 10x what you're putting in. Using that same approach, just going down board and spreading that out a little bit more. So I have a lot of different plays all over the board, all the way down to guys.
Who's the longest? Who's the longest?
Callum Tarrant.
All right.
200 to 1. Only going in with I'm backing that up with the first round leader in the top 40 as well, but it's only a 0.2 unit bet there.
Callum Tarrant is famous for partnering with David Skins in the Zurich Classic, and then also almost getting eaten by an alligator.
But Mike, before we leave, we need to talk about one more DraftKings things.
All right. I think we're good on the John Deere, so lay it on us.
When are we going to start a model for the Live Tour? Now that they're on DraftKings now. No cuts?
Only a showdown. Do you know how lame is it when we get no cut events on the PGA Tour for DraftKings? It's nearly impossible to pick. You're never out of it, but that also means that you're never safe either. And there's no concept. You're just swinging for home runs because there's no point in trying to find a high floor guys. So I don't know. That does not interest me in the least.
And showdowns are such a crapshoot unless there's a weather lean. And
But hey, on Live Tour there is no draw, so can't even play that angle.
that's a good point. And then shotgun starts, like maybe there's an angle to a hole you're starting on.
Oh man, starting on like a par 3, the par 3 is the worst.
Or the hardest par 4 on the course. Like,
yeah. Well, and you know the way that we talk about splits too, first tee, 10th tee splits, and like if you're looking for a big contest edge and you're seeing where the birdie streak's available, well, now you're thinking about 18 different starting holes and how that might break up certain birdie streak opportunities. So like I don't know. We're not short answer is we're not starting a model for it because it's dumb.
yes.
That's valid, but I'm going to set up a contest this week for the 3 of us for the Live Tour, and then we can see who wins it.
Well, that gets me thinking.
Kyle, if you don't, it'll be a $1 contest, and Kyle, if you don't join, you owe each of us $5.
I'm gonna enter with the lowest possible dollar value of players.
And
watch me.
Kyle, you said you were thinking of a bet though for me to try to win my money back on the Brendan bet. So let's hear it. Let's wrap the show up with the second live bet for RTG.
All right, so this one's going to be a little out there, but playing on the name game from last week. You're going to take totals of these individuals. One of us gets 2 guys. The other one gets 1 guy. And we're playing a game of atoms. Okay?
Okay.
So,
I know there are 3 in the field.
Yeah. Are you going to be on the side of Adam Shank and Adam Long, or the side of Adam Hadwin?
And we're talking DK points or total score to par.
Let's go DK points, and you just get, if you take the Shank and Long side, you just get whoever's better against Hadwin. So you get 2 guys versus 1 though.
Yeah, no, I get that. So I'm trying to play this out because if one of the 2 guys misses the cut and Hadwin makes the cut, like that's
then you're down. Then it's down to 1-on-1. But
plus like 18 or 20 points or whatever. Boy, I think that, and this is straight up.
Straight up.
And I get to choose because I lost the Brendan bet.
Correct.
Then I take Shank and Long.
All right, and I have had one. The battle begins.
I like it. Also, what was the bet? I've completely forgot the bet that I made with you. Was that you, Mike, last week?
You took Tom Hoagie to make the Tour Championship 3-1.
Oh yes. Well, you took him you took him not to make it. And
right, and then
I got stuck with make it. Yes, I'm the house. Okay.
So yes, all right, there we go. That's it. We've booked our Adam bet for this week. This is a fun segment. We could turn this into a thing. I think it kind of plays off of our history of the Camerons. But so I'm looking forward to figuring that out at the end of the week. So there you go. We will be back in a week with the results of the John Deere Classic. Of course, you can find our content on our YouTube channel, Reading the Green, our Twitter account at RTG Podcast, and of course, any of the major podcast platforms. Like I said, we'll be back in a week with the results of the John Deere Classic and look ahead to the Scottish Open. See ya.